violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, cyberspace? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
Learning more about what may have motivated the gunman who opened fire at his former school in St. Louis. Today, police shared this picture of an AR-15 style rifle Orlando Harris allegedly used yesterday at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School.
So guys, here you have it. Another mass shooting. Are we really surprised? Damn, I just dropped my damn cup. Anyways, we're not really surprised. It's pretty crazy out here in these streets. This happened in St. Louis, and I mean, what more can you say? It just seems like this type of stuff is becoming the new normal.
They say he brought more than 600 rounds of ammunition and a note.
He wrote, quote, "I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I've never had a girlfriend. I've never had a social life."
Wow. So this is obviously attack of the incels. But this one is a little bit more confusing because in this case, this is a brother who did this mass shooting. So the narrative of the white incel is completely washed out of the water on this one. It's crazy that these guys are acting out in this way, spazzing out, crashing out, if you will, over their antisocial proclivities, I guess, behaviors. But this is a problem. This is a problem. A lot of guys are feeling isolated because of, you know, their dating woes or their ability to, or their lack thereof, to make friends. I mean, it's getting crazy out here.
I've been an isolated loner my entire life. This was the perfect storm for a mass shooter.
Student Alexandria Bell and teacher Jean Kuczka were killed. 7 other students were wounded before police shot Harris to death.
What have you learned about anyone injured and also the suspect?
Yeah, Kate, well, you can see it's still a very active situation. We're still gathering information, but what we know is that there was an active shooter situation this morning at Central Visual and Performing High School. That's a high school in St. Louis, Missouri, and the police have confirmed that the shooter inside the school was stopped and is now in custody. We also know that at least 2 students were injured and are on their way to the hospital or already there. It's unclear the extent of their injuries, but we're also seeing reports of possibly more injuries. So again,
it's obviously this man spun the block. He spun the block. He came back for his school that I guess he graduated from, and he tried to air out as many people as he could. I think they said he brought over 600 rounds. Didn't really get far into his artillery before he was stopped. And thank goodness, thank God. But like I said, man, these guys are getting frustrated with whatever is going on in their personal lives, and they're choosing to crash out in this way. It's horrible. These super gremlins are on demon time.
Working to confirm how many people we're talking here right now. This is a high school of about 400 students, and you can see they are with family members now. They're being reunited at a different location, and of course it's still an active scene, which means you saw the FBI, other law enforcement agencies there on the scene, still working through the high school, making sure there were no other victims, that the shooting is all clear. Those details we're still working to confirm. But yes, we know that a shooter is in custody with police, and that at least 2 students were injured and are on the way to the hospital, Kate.
A has new details from St. Louis police on Orlando Harris's planned attack. Right now, police detectives and FBI agents are actively looking into this deadly shooting. It's an incident that's shaken our entire community. What's most shocking are Orlando Harris's plans to commit the shooting and the sheer amount of ammunition he walked into that school with.
This is the rifle the suspect brought into the school and used. There is no forward handguard on that rifle, which is unusual. In addition to the rifle, brought in a large quantity of ammunition. He had 7 magazines of ammunition on a chest rig that he wore.
Wow.
He also had an additional 8 magazines of ammunition in a field bag that he had carried.
These images shown in News 4 earlier today for the first time. Police say Orlando Harris had also dropped additional magazines in a stairwell, adding up to more than 600 rounds of ammunition.
Sheesh.
City Police Chief Michael Sack says they believe Harris was mentally ill. We talked with family of his who says they had...
So as you can see, they've already given him the mentally ill out, which is kind of concerning. I wouldn't say so much as mentally ill. I would just say that he was probably depressed, and I guess you can call depression a mental illness now. But he was upset at his position in life. He was an incel. He hadn't had a girlfriend, didn't have many friends or friends at all. No meaningful relationships, as he said. And he crashed out. He crashed out. He threw his life away. And I'm not sure if they actually deaded him on the scene or if he's going to have to spend the rest of his life in prison or significant time in prison. But, I mean, this is an issue that's going down in this country, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be addressed.
Been estranged from him for quite some time. FBI agents also found a manifesto inside Harris's car after the shooting, which detailed plans and a potential motive. In part, Harris wrote, "I have no family, I have no friends. I've been an isolated loner my entire life." He added, "This was the perfect storm for a mass shooter."
When reading this, we could see some of what's going on inside his mind. He feels isolated, he feels alone. Quite possibly angry and resentful of others who have what appeared to him to be healthy relationships, and so a desire to lash out.
Tonight, a lot of questions remain. Where and when did Orlando Harris purchase that rifle and ammunition, and was it bought legally? Also, what happened in the 8 minutes between police arriving to the school and then encountering Harris? All questions we're working to get answered. We're outside police headquarters. Jenna Ray, News 4.
You can see the growing memorial here in St. Louis at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. People have been coming up all evening long, leaving behind flowers, saying prayers, doing anything that is in their heart to do, as the people still struggle to come to grips with the fact that 3 people were killed here at this high school. Now, all of this, of course, happening at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School in South St. Louis. It's near Tower Grove Park and the Missouri Botanical Gardens. Police say injuries range from gunshot wounds to cardiac arrest. Now, the gunman, whose name was just released, Orlando Harris, a 19-year-old former student who went to school here, graduated last year. He has no prior record, and police say they have no motive at this time as to why he would commit this act. Now, the principal came over the speaker this morning saying the code word, letting everyone inside of this building know that there was an active gunman. They are not sure.
And isn't that crazy that you have to be prepared for things like this in public schools? The public schools are becoming more unsafe by the day. So I wouldn't advise people to put their children in public school at all.
How he got inside of the school, there were 7 security guards who were working at the school, and at each one of the entrances that was locked, and they are still not sure exactly how the man made his way inside of the school. What he did was commit murder and also create total chaos here. Such a traumatic day for the students as people try to come to grips with what happened here and how they move forward here in St. Louis. I'm Dennis Evans.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Notes left behind by a school shooter reveal more about his mental state.
He wrote, quote, "I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I've never had a girlfriend. I've never had a social life. I've been an isolated loner my entire life. This was the perfect storm for a mass shooter."
And tonight we are learning more about the evidence police are uncovering. Sarah Maki is live outside police headquarters.
Yeah, Kelly, it is exceedingly rare that we hear leaders talk aloud, read from a letter like this after an incident like we saw on Monday. But Interim Police Chief Michael Sack, he said he did so because there are lessons to be learned from this, as he also went into more information about the way this whole thing was planned. I want you to take a look. He did share some images today of the AR-15 that was used in the Monday attack. He said that there were also so many rounds of ammunition involved. He said on that gun that it might have been altered or missing parts, but we weren't able to ask any follow-up questions about how that might have impacted the gun's usage. Sack did say that the shooter stockpiled more than 600 rounds of ammunition, carrying 7 magazines on a chest strap, 8 more magazines in a field bag, and strategically dropping even more ammunition around the building. Sack said it is important to study what this shooter did and the warning signs so that we can prevent more violence in the future.
When we're more engaged with one another, we're more aware of what each person is going through, we can do what we can to try and seek help for them, even if that's...
I mean, but how are they going to be able to do that? Right? I mean, wouldn't that be pretty difficult to micromanage every guy who's not getting laid? I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to, I think. I mean, you're going to be micromanaging a lot of individuals.
It's just reporting it to authorities.
We also heard today for the first time the way that the officers from St. Louis Public Schools had joined in training with officers from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. They went through that seminar, that session, just about a month and a half ago, and they said that some of the lessons they learned there were used on Monday. Reporting live tonight, Sarah Maki, 5 on your side.
So they went to a seminar to prepare for mass shootings a month ago. Then a mass shooting happens at their school. I mean, let's run that back.
We also heard today for the first time the way that the officers from St. Louis Public Schools had joined in training with officers from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. They went through that seminar, that session, just about a month and a half ago, and they said that some of the lessons they learned there.
So a month and a half ago, probably a little bit after the Uvalde situation, the public school police and then the city police went into a joint seminar and prepared for situations just like this. A lot of people would try and classify this as a psyop or something like that because there was like preparation. I know back in the day in the conspiracy theory type channels on YouTube, they would always preface some of these crazy situations that happen, you know, maybe mass shootings or terrorist attacks. They would always preface them by some training session, you know, shortly prior to the incident actually occurring, as if they knew it was going to occur and they prepared for it. But in this case, I wouldn't stretch that far. I would just say they probably did it because of the Uvalde situation and wanted to get ahead of it. And it looks like the training paid off. I mean, even though he was able to delete a couple of people, you know, it wasn't as bad as Uvalde. And that's not to minimize the situation at all. I think we really need to look deeply into these young men who are pretty much purposeless coming from households where there is no family structure, and maybe we can get to the bottom of why this keeps happening.
Were used on Monday. Reporting live tonight, Sarah Maki, 5 on your side.
And the shooter also left more information for police to find inside his car, including how he studied similar attacks and mapped out his plan.
5 on your side's Christine Byers has been talking to sources familiar with this investigation since it happened. And Christine is here to tell us what she has learned.
Mike and Kelly, sources tell me Orlando Harris wanted to become the next school shooter to gain national attention. So he left a list of school shooters who have come before him in his car and a list of how many people they killed. Police say the gunman lived here along Pennsylvania Avenue on the city's southeast side. He parked this blue Dodge Charger along Arsenal Street near the school. Inside, sources tell me they found that list of school shootings as well as a map of the school he targeted. Sources tell me he also left a detailed description of how he got the AR-15 rifle he used during Monday's shooting. He said he tried to buy the weapon at a gun show in St. Charles but was turned down. He ended up buying it from a private dealer instead. Harris graduated from CVPA last year. Manfred McGee is the Dean of Arts at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. He remembered Harris as a student. On Monday, McGee dodged his bullets and his son is among the injured.
Wow.
He was a somewhat quiet student, kind of like a gamer. You know, he was into video games.
So he was a gamer. Was he radicalized by video games? Probably not. The, I guess, intense loneliness that he felt he was suffering from was most of the influence as to why he did this. But, you know, a lot of times you can't really paint a clear picture of why these guys end up crashing out in this way. All you can really say is these super gremlins are on demon time.
That type of thing. You know, he was a quiet kid, and I remember him well.
Upon hearing his name just now, I mean, are you surprised that this was him?
I'm surprised that this happened, period. The whole scenario, I'm surprised. Again, he was a quiet kid.
Now,
I mean, isn't it crazy? And this story is getting zero media attention. This guy did a mass school shooting, where 7 were injured, 2 were killed in St. Louis, Missouri, which I'm pretty sure we just got a report that St. Louis, Missouri was the least safe city in the U.S. They don't use most dangerous anymore. They say least safe, I guess, to water it down.
Mr. McGee said his 16-year-old son Anthony was shot in the back of his leg and he remains hospitalized today following surgery. I checked back in with him today earlier and he said his son was able to get some rest overnight.
Christine, thanks. As we mentioned earlier,
New details revealed just today in the school shooting in South St. Louis. Investigators talking about the gun and the ammunition they say the gunman, 19-year-old Orlando Harris, had with him when he opened fire yesterday morning at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School.
Wow.
Police say he walked into the school with more than 600 rounds of ammunition, killing a 15-year-old student and a teacher. We also know he left a manifesto in his car describing how he, quote, had no friends and was an isolated loner. News 4 has live team coverage on this story detailing that new information on the shooter, as well as talking with the family of victims. News 4's David Amilati also just heard from St. Louis Public Schools, who just wrapped up a news conference moments ago. David, what are they saying today?
Paige, good evening. We're still working to figure out what kind of caliber bullet was used in yesterday's shooting, but we do know, again, an AR-style rifle. We're outside the Board of Education office where for about an hour school officials were speaking about the events that played out yesterday. We're also finding out new information as far as those security guards that were inside the building when this shooting happened. We now know that some of those security guards do have firearms with them. We're also able to confirm now that that first officer, that first security guard that did meet the shooter inside the building, again, did not have a firearm on their body. Superintendent, right?
So you got unarmed security guards for some reason at the school. I mean, it's not making any sense right now. It really isn't. Other than, you know, my man was lonely, wasn't getting laid, and he crashed out.
I should say President of the Board of Education, Matt Davis, says that he wants to send his condolences to the families of the victims, and he says he's outraged about how this issue has become political. He says the focus should be on the families of the victims, the students in this community rebuilding. This should not be for a side to win any points.
We arm our security guards. We lock the doors. We train kids starting in preschool what to do when someone comes into their school and tries to inflict trauma on them, to hurt them. A safe space, a sacred place for our childhood, and it's been taken away.
Yeah.
Now you can hear the emotion in his voice. There was not one person on this dais that was speaking this afternoon that did not have tears in their eyes. Clearly, a lot of that emotion still gripping them. And while we're just 24 hours out of this horrific event that happened yesterday, there is also an update on counseling and support for both students and staff. We'll break that up coming up later at 5 o'clock. Live in downtown, David Amilati, News 4.
David, thank you. We continue now our team coverage with News 4's Jenna Ray, who is live outside police headquarters with new information just released from police about the shooter. Jenna.
Paige, right now, detectives and FBI agents are still working alongside each other, combing through this very active investigation into the deadly school shooting at CVPA High School. Now, 19-year-old Orlando Harris, who you mentioned was actually a graduate of this high school. Today, we learned that he walked into that high school with a loaded AR-15 .223 caliber rifle. These are some images that we're now seeing for the first time. These were given to us by police earlier today. You can see the rifle laid out on the table, in addition to several magazines and ammunition. FBI agents also found a notebook inside Harris's car, which police say laid out plans to commit this school shooting. Police Chief Michael Sack says the sheer amount of rounds brought into the school by Harris was alarming.
600 rounds is a lot of ammunition. I don't know if anybody's a shooter or not, but it doesn't take long to burn through a magazine as you're looking down a long corridor or up or down a stairwell or into a classroom. This could have been a horrific scene. It was not, by the grace of God, and that the officers were as close as they were and responded in the manner that they did.
Right now, police still do not have a direct motive, or rather aren't pointing down a direct motive for Harris to go into that school. However, FBI agents did find a notebook with plans laid out that was found in his car after the shooting. I'll detail that coming up for you on News 4 at 5. For now, we're live outside of police headquarters. Jenna Ray, News 4.
Jenna, thank you. And today there is a growing memorial outside the school. People stopping by to pay their respects to those who lost their lives. News 4's Gabriela Vidal also spent the day talking with loved ones of victims and joins us live outside Central Visual and Performing Arts High School right now in South City.
Yeah, Paige, it's here off of Kings Highway in Arsenal where you can see that growing memorial of people paying their respects for both of the victims in yesterday's shooting, and emotions are still weighing heavy on the family and loved ones of both Jean Kuczka, as well, the PE teacher who was killed in that shooting. She was beloved by students and was reportedly protecting her students when she was shot and killed. And also 15-year-old Alex Bell, the student that was killed in yesterday's shooting. I did get a chance to speak to her father earlier today. He lives in California, but he was making it on his way here to St. Louis when he spoke to me about losing his daughter.
I didn't want to believe it. I didn't care that the person that told her mother knew her very well. I didn't want to believe it. I had my family still looking. They didn't stop looking until Keisha and my father went in to identify the body.
Damn. My man lost his daughter from this super sick gremlin. You know, there are no words. Condolences to the family. But, you know, it's like we keep coming to these situations over and over again, and it really makes you wonder if this is really going to become the new normal. I mean, it already feels like it has become the new normal, but it's just a tragedy for show. And man, heart goes out to all the families who had injured or people who were lost in this shooting.
Andre Bell says his daughter and him shared a special bond. They loved to try weird foods together and talked practically every day despite the distance. And besides her interest in dancing, he says she was also starting to get into learning how to cook as well. He says he learned about the shooting at his daughter's school from Alex Bell's mother, Keisha, and says he never could have imagined a school shooting happening at her school and taking her life.
To know her is to know happiness. To know her is to know caring and compassion. My daughter was my daughter was everything. If you knew her, you knew the true meaning of happiness.
You can feel the heartbreak in his emotions. We're also hearing from people that knew and loved Jean Kuczka, the teacher who was killed in this shooting. We'll have more coming up at 5 from people who knew her closely about what she meant to the community. Reporting live in South City, Gabrielle Vidal, News 4.
Gabby, thank you.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, in school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.